All right, Hawks, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about working on what will be maybe your first auxiliary view drawing. For instance, if we go we'll go into the shared drive, and I'll show you where this is on the shared drive. I guess maybe we should do that right now. So I already have this open, but on your computer, you would go to the Windows menu in the bottom left, up to Documents, and that should open up a new window. If you have not become familiar with it, we have a shared drive on campus, and that is where we'll be going. You can access information there, but you cannot save there. So I'll go to the S drive. We're going to go to Main South, Students, AAT, Applied Tech, CAD Shared. I am Mr. Krause, so in that folder, and under the CAD 2 assignments, don't worry about the naming. Inside of there, we're going to be looking for the bearing contact arm, okay? And you'll open up that file, or you'll grab it through Classroom where I'll have it posted, and we're going to be looking at this item on the top left. Let me zoom out so the sheet looks like this. The concept here is we're going to walk through this object together. We'll do the three-dimensional view. We'll talk about setting up an auxiliary view sheet. And then we'll set up an IDW, and then you'll have your choice of the rest of them, or they may be assigned to certain individuals, and you'll do your own auxiliary view. The concept of an auxiliary view is if we took this object, and I would say that looking at it from this side would be our front view. So in our front view, we never see this front surface with the circle and the arc in its appropriate size or shape. It's going to be distorted when we project it into a front view. It'll be distorted on a right side view. And so an auxiliary view, kind of like we see in the layout here, we're going to show a top view, okay? And we're going to project perpendicular to the angled surface a broken out view of the surface we're looking to highlight, okay? We may also end up having here like a front view or something like that along with the top view, just so we can get the height that we need out of the object on the IDW. So with that in mind, I have a copy here printed, so I will try to go back and forth. Let's get started. So we got back to Inventor, or for those of you that are interested, Fusion 360, which obviously is similar but not exactly the same. And we're going to start a new drawing. And again, I suggest looks like the dimensioning sheet, or the sheet here, the example is in inches. So we're going to go to the standard IPT, and let's start a new project. All right. The first thing that I am going to do is go up and go to File, Save As, and I want to now specify where this is going to get saved. And you can see here I'm going to be saving inside of my U drive in a folder I call Inventor, maybe you call it CAD, and this one is going to be a bearing. So now that I have it highlighted or it listed up at the top of the middle screen where it says it is bearing, we are ready to start. And just like in the first set of Inventor videos, I don't lie when I say things. I like to turn on that center or origin point where all the zeros of the XYZ axes come in. And this time, rather than turning on the plane visibility, I'm just going to come over to the origin and highlight it, right click on it, and I'm going to start a new sketch on that plane specifically. Okay. So now that we have this plane, I have to look at my example, and I'm wondering what the easiest way to draw this will be, or model it in 3D, and my brain says I should start from the base, right? So I've got a base here that's 3.5 inches, and that looks like it's from circle centers, 3.5 inches long and 1.5 inches tall. The circles appear to, the 4 circles or holes appear to be concentric, meaning the circles share their center point with the outside radius here. And that's important to note because there is a constraint for concentricity in Inventor. So here we go. Let's get back to Inventor. And I'm just going to start with a rectangle. It looks like a rectangular surface. So I'm going to start with a basic rectangle. And you can see in the drop down, there's a whole bunch of different options. I'm just going to start with a base rectangle. And maybe I don't want, let's see here, that's on a 2-point center. I don't want that. I'm going to start with a 2-point rectangular. So I'm going to left click, and you could certainly have started with the other one, but I'm going to start again on that origin point so it locks down my starting point. And I'm going to drag this out, and I'm going to left click, and I'm going to get myself a rectangle. At this point in time, you'll see that there are 2 black lines. Those are locked down because of the lock onto the origin point, and these other ones I can still click and drag as necessary. Let's go back and look at the example. It does show that we have a 1/2 inch radius around the outside corners. So that's where I'm going to go next, okay, because the dimensions they're giving us aren't for the outside edges of the object, they're for the center of the circles, and therefore the center of those radiuses or radii. So I'm going to go and get the fillet command. Okay, if we got a drop down here, there's a fillet command and a chamfer command. I'm going to be using the fillet command. And if you haven't used this before, either in AutoCAD or Inventor, this will typically take 2 lines. They don't have to be perpendicular, and it will either round the corner off or possibly square it up if you make the radius 0. And according to my sheet, it should be a 0.5 radius. And if I get out of there, what I should be able to do is go object there. Wait a second. I love it when things work. Let's try that again. Fillet, 0.5. Left click on that line. Left click on that line. That's what I was looking to see. And here is my 1/2 inch radius. And I, in theory, should be able to do that on all 4 corners. Now, I may run into problems here. We'll see shortly because, it looks like it's going to work all right. My sketch was just a little too small. So maybe the object really looks a little bit more like that. And again, you can see that I still have a number of items that are not locked down yet. But that's the basic shape of my base. And so now I can go and put in dimensions to the centers of those radius corners. So I've got 3.5 on the long way and 1 1/2 vertically or depth-wise. So come back and we'll get some dimensions. And I'm going to go from this center to this center. And that should be 3.5. So I'll put in that dimension, and you'll see now it's locking down more with the black color change. And I'm going to do the vertical, which was 1.5. And now I have a completely locked down base. That's usually a good point to save. Oh, and I'm sketching, so I guess I can't do that. I could exit out of my sketch and save there, but before I do that, there's a couple ways to make this base. Oh my goodness. And I think I want to put the circles in right now. And I'm thinking about that because I could leave the centers and try to access or show those holes later, which could have benefits. If I use the hole feature, that might work out better down the road as you kind of get more experience either extruding here. If I put the circles in, when I extrude, I'll extrude the holes in rather than extrude it solid and then have to cut the holes. So I'm just looking at this as a quick step to not have to go back later and put in the holes. So I'm going to get the circle. I'm going to just come out here, and it looks like on my sheet it says the diameter says 7/16 drill. Let's go look at that. 7/16 drill. Drill is another name for a diameter. That is supposed to be 4 holes. So it looks to me like they're giving me a diameter option here. So we see the dashed lines going from edge to edge while it's going through the center of the circle. So I don't know what the decimal equivalent is of 7/16. So I'm going to type in 7 divided by 16 and hit enter. And that should give me the correct size hole. Now you can do that at the other corners, but let's talk about another thing that software has in it for us, which is the ability to simplify or speed things up. So there is this copy feature, and if you haven't used the copy feature in Inventor before, it can be challenging because, again, you're learning a new technique. So let's go into copy, and we get this window, and it says, well, tell me what you want to copy. You see select right here. It's highlighted in blue. So I'm going to come down here to this circle. I'm going to select the circle. You'll see now that circle stays highlighted. I now want to tell it where to copy from. So that's the base point. So I'm going to click on this arrow, and now that's me telling the software, hey, I'm done selecting. Now I'm going to tell you where I want to copy it from. And circles are nice to copy from their center point. And you'll see now that that circle is attached to my arrow. I'm just going to go over to the other 3 radius center points. And when I'm done, I can either hit escape. I'm going to hit escape, or I can select that done button. And now I've made 4 copies. Or sorry, 3 copies of that original circle. So if I finish this sketch, zoom out, I now have enough information for which I can, let's first save. So Control S there, okay, or up to the save disk, save it. And now I'm going to extrude. And I want to extrude that shape. And you'll see here, Inventor kind of goes, oh, you've got this closed shape. I can extrude a circle, or I can extrude this shape here where the circles will be cut out. So again, I'm saving myself a step here. Depending on how you create things, sometimes operations down the road later don't work out quite as well. So this is just another way of doing things. So we could certainly have used the center points of those fillets to create holes once we've extruded. And maybe I'll show you that in an upcoming video. So now it's just asking me for the thickness. So let's go look back at our sheet. And it looks like the thickness of this bottom plate is 7/16. So I'm just going to highlight it right here. I can probably put it in the pop-up window here. I'm also not concerned about the direction of the extrusion. So I'm coming up in the Z, which is kind of my preferred way of modeling, and staying in the positive side of things. This doesn't really matter, but helps my brain kind of understand what I'm doing. So I'm going to do, oh, sorry, not 4, 7 divided by 16, and hit enter or OK on the button. And now I now have my base. Okay, now I have my base. And this is where things start to get a little bit trickier. And what I'm going to show you is what I think is maybe the simplest way or the easiest way to learn how to do some of these things. As you get more advanced, you may find other techniques that could have done this faster or more efficiently. So I'm trying to break it down into bite-sized pieces and teach you some new things at the same time. So if we go back and look at our example, now we get into some nitty-gritty, okay? We see that there's a general note down here, fillets and rounds, okay? Hopefully in class we've already talked about all these little itty-bitty squiggle marks, and that's showing you that that corner of the object is filleted. As a rule of thumb, when you're talking about a 3-dimensional object, I try to wait to fillet until I'm done creating all the base shapes. You can sometimes run into problems if you fillet, let's say this base. I go back to Inventor and I get this fillet command. Where is it? Fillet. Okay, it's fillet command, and if I go back and it looks like our fillets are 1/8 of an inch radiuses. It says it right there, 1/8 inch radius fillets. So if I come here and I select this top edge and I give it a size, 1/8 inch, we can fillet that object right now. Now we have a filleted corner all the way around the top there. If you pay attention to our hierarchy over here in the Model tab, I have the extrusion. Under the extrusion, I have a sketch. Now I've added a fillet. I can come back later and I can delete this. So I'm just going to right-click and hit delete. Now that fillet will be gone. There are points in time where if you delete something, it can cause errors with everything that's below that procedure. So again, I tend to suggest waiting. So I now need to think about how I'm going to get this angled shape. And it looks like it's a 45-degree angle. It looks like it's in the center of the object based on that 1 3/4, and the 3/4 here. So the center of this kind of protrusion is in the middle of our object. It also looks like it starts from the top surface. So here's the way I would probably go about this, and we'll see how well this works out. I'm going to get the sketch. I'm going to sketch, in this case, right on this top surface. And I'm going to just kind of look at my 3D view cube over here, go to my front view, and that is my top surface. So I'm going to select that surface, and I'm going to start a sketch on that surface. This is where things get a little interesting. I can get a rectangle, and I can just kind of draw a rectangle, right? That's okay. The next thing that I have to worry about is placing it on the object. So where's the center of this rectangle? We don't have this rectangle sized, and we don't have a center. So maybe I don't want to start with a rectangle. Maybe I want to start with some construction lines, okay? And if in a previous job we had used some information to find the center, or some other geometry that we can use to find a center, we can try to use this thing called project geometry. Okay, if I go into project geometry, if I go and find the base down here, you see it kind of highlights in yellow there what we shared, but that's not exactly what I want. It might work. Okay, and so I'm gonna leave that there. I'm not gonna undo. The other thing that I could do, if I hit escape here, is I can go into the extrusion, and you see if I go and highlight the sketch, that's also causing the initial sketch geometry to become visible. Again, could be beneficial. I'm going to roll with what we got here, and I'm going to try to now, I'm going to find the center of this object. So I'm going to get from this top, oh, I don't want that. Let's go back to a front view. I'm going to get a line, and Inventor will try to help you find the center. I know it's hard to see on the screen, but I've got a green dot right now. That's the midpoint of that line. So I'm going to draw a line from midpoint to midpoint, and that should be enough, but I'm also going to do another one vertically, right? If I'm looking to try to find the center of this surface without putting any additional measurements in, notice those lines are locked down because they've been constrained to the centers. I now have found the exact center of that top surface, okay? So you can see those lines are just on the top surface. So I look at those as some sketch geometry. And now I'm gonna go back to this front view and I have to think about the rectangle. So let's go back and look at the rectangle. There's some options here. And I know the size of the rectangle. Let's go back and look. The size of the rectangle is 1 3/4 deep and a 7/8 of an inch radius means that it's also 1 3/4 from side to side. From the center of the circle out to the edge is 3 7/8, and the other side is 7/8. That's actually, so we've got that's 1 3/4 total. So we have a 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 rectangle. We also can tell, maybe up by this sketch example here, it looks like the edges of our circle, which are right in here, look to be tangent with the outside edge of our base. So that's kind of some important information. The question is, how do we get there? Well, it looks like I need a line to be there, out to here, to there, out to here, and back. Now, there are some rectangle commands. So let's see, I got a 3-point center, direction, then adjacent. I don't think I want the button 2 there. That won't work for us. So 2-point rectangle, well, that might work. Let's try that. Let's try a 2-point. We'll start in the center, and then we'll go out to the edge. And that didn't, and I click on the edge, the endpoint there, it didn't do anything for me. So let's try this. We're going to left click and place that, right? And I've got some options. Let's do this. Let's dimension this. This is supposed to be 1.75 by 1.75, right? It's supposed to be a rectangle. Now it's dark and black. I might be able to rotate this and this and this and this from this center point. And you see it's telling me that it's constrained. That's the problem with the full black. I'm going to say yes. Let's remove those constraints. Let's see what happens. So now it looks like I had established the center. Those edges are no longer locked down, but if I rotate that 45 degrees, which is apparently what I would want, that looks like it's kind of the base shape that I might be looking for. I might be able to kind of come in here and go, hey, between here and this, I want a 45-degree line. And also let me put that dimension in. I still don't have a fully constrained object. So I'm just trying to think, how could I fully constrain this if I didn't want this to have a chance to move? If I come over here and I try to click that, you see how it's moving on me? I don't want that. So maybe if I go to this lock, maybe you haven't seen this before, we can maybe lock this. If I click on the lock and I just go lock right there, that didn't really change anything for me. Maybe if I come and work on making all these sides equal, that's over constraining, so that's not going to work for me. What do we got here? Constraint settings. Maybe if I lock down this edge as well. Ooh, there we go. Now I've got a locked down sketch. So I kind of like that. Okay, I'm gonna finish this sketch and I'm gonna do a save. And now I want to extrude this rectangle. You see I've got these lines in here. That's sketch geometry. If I got rid of that, well, let's go back and find out. Let's go back and edit that sketch, and I'm going to attempt to just delete that sketch. Ooh, and that didn't change anything. Neither did that. So I like that because I don't need that extra information there, and that's the shape that I'm looking for. All right, let's go back and take a look here. I gotta figure out, I gotta extrude this. Now, my head says I could extrude for a 13/16 height, but I'm gonna do a 13/16 height plus the 7/8 of an inch radius. And now you can do the math. That's gonna give me a rectangle or a cube. It's gonna give me a cube. And I like that idea right now. Again, there's other ways to probably do that. So show you this one. So we're gonna extrude that rectangle for, what was it? 13/16 plus 7/8. So watch this. 13/16 plus 7/8. And now I have cube for my object, or the top or upper part of my object. So now we need a hole, right? We need a 3/4 drill. We also need a 7/8 inch radius. I'm going to do the radius first. So let me show you that. I'm going to use the fillet command because it's really a fillet of two edges. So we need to fillet, and I'm going to select that corner, and I'm going to do 7/8, and I hit enter. And I'm going to come and do the other side, same way, enter. Hopefully that was nice and quick. I like that. That was easy. Control S for save. Now I need to put the hole down the middle, and we're going to be done modeling this almost. So it's a 3/4 inch drill. Drill is the diameter. So let's see if I can put a hole. And unfortunately, because I use those fillets, I do not have a hole center, right? So I might have to do some work here. So let's go and get a sketch. And I'm going to sketch on that surface. And what I want to do is I want to make a center point. I'm going to make that center point, I don't know, right there. And then I am simply going to dimension it to locate it. So distance between here to here is supposed to be, let's go look, 7/8. That's what it was. I remember 7/8. And I also want to go from here to here. Oh, that's not right. Let's check that again. Move this around. I'm going to do a dimension from here to the outside. It's not letting me do that either. So hold on. Oh, that's because, you know what? Let me think here. I should just do it from the bottom of the cube to the center, 13/16. This dimension right here. That's what I'm going to do. So let's go and get that dimension from here to the center. 13/16. And now I have a center locked down. I can finish the sketch. And here's a center, which when I do hole, it will identify that hole, which is perfect. And I need a 3/4 inch drill, which is a diameter. Looks like it's already set up to be 3/4 of an inch. So we'll say okay. And now I have my almost completed object. So I'm going to do a quick Control S, save. The last thing I need to put on here, and we'll wrap up this video, is the fillets and rounds. Again, that's all these little squiggle marks showing these surfaces are smoothed or radiused because of the manufacturing process. And so let's talk about fillets and rounds. So we can fillet and round lots of edges. You can see Inventor lets you find surfaces or faces and edges, and that's beneficial for us. So I'm going to come up here to the fillet command, and I'm going to start selecting items. So I want to fillet that, and I believe that's, looks like I need to go in here and was it 1/8. Let's do that. And a good rule of thumb, Hawks, at least in my experience, sometimes if you just do one fillet like this rather than all of them, it may give you errors because it will want to try to fillet into another surface that's already filleted, and that can be problematic. And that looks like I got all the way around the base, all the way around the inside or the corner here between the upper surface and the base and the top edges. And all I have to do is say okay, and boom, we have a filleted finished object. And to me, other than, that's kind of hard to see here, I don't like this kind of dip here. I don't think it shows that in the example. Let's take a look. It looks like it's straight across, so I'm not a huge fan of that, but for our learning purposes, I think if everybody's in there with the same detail, that'd be perfectly okay. And I know that inside the fillet command, you can go and kind of play with this particular item, but I'm not going to have us do that in this video. And again, that's a good learning experience using some offsets and some construction geometry and adding some fillets in and so on and so forth. So make sure you save before you're finished. And on the next video, we'll pick up with how to set up the IDW for the views that we're looking for.